Good afternoon. You're listening to Radio Kidnappers, the voice of Hawke's Bay, and this is Heather Barrow with a program called Food for Life. And today we are going to continue our discussion on fertility and egg health. So a few shows ago I had Janine Gard on from Bellies to Babies. She was talking about healthy pregnancy. Really good information in there. So if you missed it, go on to Radio Kidnapper's site and you can catch that on YouTube as well. And last month we talked about how to increase the health of your eggs. And I know there's a lot of information in there, and it's a huge topic, so there's no way I'd be able to cover everything. But what I'd like to do today is to recap a little bit about what I talked about last time. So we talked about the importance of both parties, if you're trying to conceive, to get checked. So get to know your numbers, get your bloods done, both the male and the female, because it does take two to conceive and have a baby. So you want to know your numbers, and the best way to do that is to see your healthcare practitioner, your GP, and just let them know that you are wanting to conceive, and maybe you've been trying for a few months and nothing's happened. Maybe it's been 6 months or a year and nothing's happened. I can say it's definitely time, if you've been trying for 6+ months, to make sure everything's okay on both sides. So simple blood tests can do that, and I talked about getting certain bloods done, which your doctor would already know. Your FSH, your LH, your estradiol, your testosterone, your progesterone, and of course sperm count and sperm check. So definitely worth getting done. Okay, so the health of your egg, we discussed there's lots of factors that come into play when thinking about the health of an egg. So the life cycle of an egg is 90 days. So you pretty much have that time to prepare your eggs to conceive. So if you're getting married in December, you want to make sure at least 90 days prior that you are doing all the right things, eating the right foods, and proper water, and lowering those stress levels, which we talked about. There's a lot of factors that come into play for the health of the ovaries. We mentioned environmental factors. I see people all the time come into my office with water bottles that are made of plastic. They refill their pump bottles. Again, that really can mess with your hormones. We want to get rid of that, all the plastics, even plastic Tupperware containers, plastic takeaway containers, all of that. The heat gets into the plastic and it releases compounds that interfere with your hormones. There's other environmental factors as well. I won't go into all of those. Good thing we live in New Zealand because we're not in a highly polluted country, so that we have that going in our favor. Hormones in the diet, we mentioned meats, if the budget permits, to try and get organic or free range where possible, and that really goes for produce as well, because there's a lot of sprays and pesticides on fruit and vegetables. So if you can, try and get organic. And you know what, there's not a huge price difference, and sometimes I even find, if I go into Chantel's, and a shout out to Chantel's for sponsoring this radio show, if I go into Chantel's, I can find that sometimes the apples, the bananas, even the avocados, organic, are almost cheaper or the same price as the regular supermarket. So check it out. If you live in Hastings, you can go to Cornucopia. That's your local health food shop. Okay, and stress. So stress, again, we talked about this. When the body's stressed, you don't want to conceive. It's just like, it's the way of nature. So your body's releasing all the stress hormones over progesterone, and progesterone is the hormone that you need in the second half of your cycle. And it's an important hormone because it helps with implantation, and it helps build that uterine lining. So you need a nice, healthy, thick lining in the uterus for that egg to kind of nestle in. It kind of just implants and burrows into the uterine lining. So progesterone's involved in that. You're not going to be producing much, if at all, progesterone if you are stressed. So if you're wanting to conceive, really evaluate your lifestyle, see where the stressors are, and try and pass them on if you can, or just get rid of them altogether. It's not worth it. Okay, so let's see, where are we now? So blood flow, we talked about that. Very important to oxygenate the body, and exercise, number one. It's also very good for stress levels. If you've listened to my show, you know that I'm also a fitness instructor. So I've taught Zumba now for about 14 years. And I find cardio, interval training, or just aerobics some of the best forms of exercise. Maybe you're a runner, maybe you like boot camp, or I don't know, like a specialty like kickboxing or something like that. Go for it. Find what you like and do it. Now, if you're listening and you're thinking, but I am really stressed and I am doing a boot camp or CrossFit, my recommendation is that you stop really, really high intensity exercise, because if the body's already stressed, sometimes it can perceive intense exercise as another stressor and just add to that load. So I recommend doing something a little bit more relaxing for the body. Maybe it is Pilates or yoga or swimming, or just walking, doing some hills. Just getting the heart rate still going is a good idea. Okay, water. So just to recap on that, I'm amazed how many people don't drink enough in a day. And I see our host over there has a nice water bottle out. So we are looking at not just the standard 8 glasses or 8 ounces, most people here. You want 30 milliliters of water per kilo of body weight. So find out how much you weigh, multiply it by 30, and that gives you your liter intake for the day. Now that number is only if you are not already drinking 8 cups of coffee a day. Ken. Ken is our other host. So caffeine acts as a diuretic. So we want to, if we're going to have coffee, and there's nothing wrong with coffee, you want to up that amount per day. So 80 kilos, 30 mils, you're looking at about 2.5 liters a day. And if you don't like water, I've had a few people say, I don't like the taste of water. And I'm thinking, where are you getting your water from? Because water actually should not have a flavor. It should not have a taste. It should pretty much be tasteless. But you can add some drops to it. You can add flavoring. There are these things called water drops on the market. And I'm a huge fan because it's a little bit sweet, and it's sweetened with stevia, which is a natural plant extract. So whatever you need to add to your water to get you drinking it and liking it is a good thing. Okay, we also mentioned massage and acupuncture. So of course we want oxygenated blood to be flowing to the uterus, and that really helps fresh blood going in and old blood going out. So there is, massage is not just massage. You actually want to get fertility massage, and you want to find someone that specializes in that. So that's a specialized training where they have learned how to focus specifically on fertility. And also acupuncture. So acupuncture, some people have done it, some people may have never done it, and I myself did do it a little bit. For me, acupuncture and I aren't the best of friends because I just don't like needles and I overthink it, and even though they're microscopic, for me it just caused more stress. The majority of people don't say that, so I think I'm the exception, but acupuncture can be really helpful and also help increase blood flow to the uterus. So the last thing we talked on from the last show is hormones. Very complicated topic. So I'm not going to go into that too much, but just to say they need to be balanced. When they're balanced, that allows for healthy eggs and healthy fertilization and implantation, so conception. You've got the main ones are your estrogen and progesterone. And I think today the problem we're seeing is estrogen is all the way up here and progesterone is all the way down at the bottom. So your cycle should be about 28 days on average. So think of, if we divide 28 in half, from day 1 to day 14, you're shedding the lining of your uterus and it starts building back up. And that's where estrogen starts increasing. So if we had a graph, it would be like start at the bottom, slow incline. And then on day 14, your estrogen's the highest. And that's usually around when you ovulate. If you're ovulating, that's a whole nother topic. And then your estrogen starts going down and progesterone starts increasing. Now the problem we're seeing is progesterone is not increasing. And that's the important hormone, as I mentioned before, to get the uterus ready, get the lining ready, and to actually be able to keep the pregnancy. So if you're listening and let's say you get pregnant easily, but keeping the pregnancy seems to be an issue, you might want to get those hormones checked and make sure your progesterone levels are good. Okay. Nutrition. I am a nutritionist, registered nutritionist, and I do work out of Prenatal at G's Pharmacy. And nutrition is a huge passion of mine, and I think it always has been. And of course it comes into play with fertility and conception as well, because we are what we eat, and our cells renew themselves every 90 days. So literally what you're eating now will reflect in your skin and your mood and everything else in 90 days. So it really is important to make sure that you are eating whole, nutrient-dense foods that don't have the toxins and the additives and preservatives and colorings and all that. But there are some specific foods for egg health, and we want to be looking at those essential fats. So nuts and seeds, every kind of nut you can think of, walnuts, almonds, cashews, Brazil nuts, particularly good. Seeds, pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds are excellent. Even sesame seeds, all of those you want in your diet. You can use, nuts and seeds are really versatile. That's one thing I really love about them, is you can just kind of sprinkle them on a stir fry or your morning porridge, or put them into a smoothie. They're just something easy to add. They provide a lot of nutrition, and they help balance your blood sugars because they're pretty much protein and fat. So stock up. I've got all of them, pretty much everyone that I just mentioned, in my fridge in a glass jar, because nuts and seeds can actually get a little bit moldy if you keep them in your pantry. So I like just to keep them in glass and keep them cold. Okay, what else? Salmon. So your essential fatty acids, your EPA and DHA, which also have high anti-inflammatory properties, and salmon and tuna are quite high in them. So those fish oils are quite good for conception. Ginger, one of my favorites, not only when you're pregnant to help with nausea, but prior to as well, as you're trying to conceive, because it's really, really, really good for circulation. So if you find that you're a cold person, if you're easily cold all the time, have some ginger. Ginger tea, fresh ginger root, anything ginger, and that's going to help increase circulation and blood flow to the uterus. Antioxidants and phytonutrients, so these can be found in all of your berries, so blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, boysenberries, even frozen if you want. They're a lot more convenient, and I often buy frozen in the winter. I still do smoothies in the winter and I just chuck in some frozen berries, and it's quick and easy, and the nutrients have kind of been locked in, because usually when you buy frozen fruits and vegetables, they're picked and then they were put in the freezer, and so it kind of locks and seals those nutrients. So get your berries in, all of your dark leafy vegetables, and I find that this is the area where we're not getting enough of those phytonutrients, and they're in dark leafy greens. Not many people can say, I'm craving kale today, or I'm craving spinach or silver beet. But those are the very nutrients that you want in your body, and lots of them. So I like to say, in a given day, if you were to use your hands as a measuring device, if you held them together and held them out, what you could pile in 2 hands should be your leafy greens for the day. So whatever can fit piled up into 2 hands. And sometimes if you don't like the taste of kale, why not make kale chips? Sprinkle a little olive oil, de-stem them, take the stem out, because that's where all the bitter taste is. A little bit of salt and pepper or some herbs, and put them in the oven. And kale chips are really, really tasty. So any dark leafy green, all very good for you. Okay, this recap's taking a long time, but that's okay. Okay, so diet and lifestyle habits that can damage egg health. Well, I think they're pretty obvious. So first of all, smoking. Smoking is very acidic in the body, and we need an alkalized body to conceive. Caffeine, so obviously too much coffee. That's going to deplete the body of calcium and magnesium and B vitamins, all of which your body needs to conceive. And it's also going to draw water out of the body. And if you're stressed, remember, coffee kind of acts like a cup of stress hormone. So it's like drinking a cup of cortisol. It's just going to add to that stress load. Too much alcohol. So obviously, I think it's 3 to 5 standard drinks a week, they say, is acceptable. So you don't want to really go over that. Remember, alcohol is the #1 liver loader, and you need a healthy liver to conceive as well, because that liver is involved in processing everything that comes into the body, all your medications if you're taking any, as I mentioned, alcohol, caffeine, and your hormones. So your liver actually does process your hormones, and what happens is if you have too much at the front door of your liver that's trying to be processed, it can get pushed back into the body, and toxins can build up, and your body actually doesn't prioritize hormones, so hormones are last. So if you have too many toxins from the food you eat, the hormones are kind of waiting in line to be processed, and they build up in the body. And that's how estrogen dominance can occur, what we talked about earlier. That estrogen's up, the progesterone's down. Okay, fizzy drinks, obviously too much sugar is a big one, and that's obvious. Women, you're looking at 30 to maximum 40 grams a day, so that's about 6 to 7 teaspoons. Men, you can go a little bit higher, but really not too much, maybe 45 grams a day. We're getting way too much sugar in our diets, and I think even myself, some days I have too much sugar. I encourage you, if you're listening, go home, open your fridge, look at your condiments. It's a huge area where sugar is hiding. Sweet chili sauce, ketchup, barbecue sauce, all of them loaded, half sugar really. There's that show on TV, I watched it last night, it was really good. They go into someone's house and they look at their pantry, and then they take out food. I forget the name of it, but it's really, really good. And they teach them how to eat healthier and decrease the cost of their grocery bill. You can learn a lot from just watching that show. It's quite good. Okay, now supplements. This is what I wanted to get to today. So what supplements can you take to increase your fertility? We might not get through all this today. The first one, and the one that most people have heard of, is folic acid. That's a really important one because that helps reduce the risk of neural tube defects for the baby. So you want to make sure you're getting, I think it's 800 micrograms of that in your multivitamin, or you can take that separately. Now, something I really want to stress is there is a certain gene, and it's called the Mthr gene. Some people have it, some people don't. You won't know if you have it. So if you have this gene, that means that you cannot convert the folic acid into folate, and therefore it doesn't get absorbed. This can result in conditions like spina bifida. So if you have this gene and you are taking folic acid and you conceive and you continue taking it throughout your pregnancy, it can result in spina bifida. Now, I don't say that to scare anyone, but what I would encourage you to do, if you don't know that you have the gene and you conceive, why not take folate, which is the form that you want to be taking anyway. That's what folic acid should be converted into in the body. You might as well take folate to start. One supplement I really recommend that I took is Naturobest Prenatal. So the thing that I like about Naturobest brand is that they break down the pregnancy. So they have a prenatal. So if you're trying to conceive, in that multi, it has all the nutrients that you need for that time. Once you conceive, they have another multivitamin, and that is for trimesters 1. Actually, I think it's just trimester 1. So really focused on nutrition at that time, and it also has ginger in it because women tend to have morning sickness in the first trimester. Then they break it down to trimesters 2 and 3 and breastfeeding. So there's 3 different defined periods of the pregnancy and preconception that you can take those multis for. Now, I took that for my pregnancy, and I continue to take that as I'm breastfeeding now. So I rate it very highly. If you're listening and you'd like to know more about that multivitamin, just get in touch with me, because it is not a supplement that you can get at Health 2000. You have to get it through a practitioner. So folate. Another really good one is vitamin E. It's an essential nutrient for the ovaries, and it's also really good for anti-aging as it's an antioxidant. It supports the health of the egg. So vitamin E is a good one. Vitamin D, of course, this is really good for hormonal balance and healthy hormones. Get out there and get some sunshine. Best way to get your vitamin D. It's the best way to absorb vitamin D. 15 minutes a day. Take off those layers and get your skin exposed to the sun. Another great one that I also took and I continue to take is a good quality fish oil. So those omega-3 fatty acids have been shown to improve fertility. And I think that's because of the EPA and DHA. So they're really good anti-inflammatory, which is really good for eggs. It also has a really good impact on the brain, not only your brain, but your baby's brain. So not all fish oil is created equal. You really want to get one that is clean, really, because they can have mercury in them. So those big tubs that you see at the supermarket for $20 for 300 fish oils, that's not worth your money. Better to put that $20 towards a really good quality fish oil. A couple brands I really love are Bioceuticals, Ethical Nutrients, and Nordic Naturals. So they're clean and they're high in the properties that you want. Okay, last one I'm going to mention today is CoQ10. Coenzyme Q10 is really good for fertility. It has antioxidant properties, and it's very good for if you have polycystic ovarian syndrome. It can help with that, and that can be an issue for women trying to conceive. So coenzyme Q10 is like a little powerhouse for your cells, so it just helps on a cellular level with health, and it's actually good for energy too. Last one, actually, I'll just sneak this one in, is selenium. You can get that from Brazil nuts. So 3 Brazil nuts a day can give you your selenium. And remember, all of these should be in your multivitamin. So again, if you get the NaturalBest, that is a good one to take, and it should have all of that, what I just mentioned in there. So we've run out of time. If you're listening, this is Heather Barrow. This is a program called Food for Life. I'm a registered clinical nutritionist operating out of G's Pharmacy in Taradale, and I'd be happy to have a chat if you have any questions around your fertility, around egg health. Maybe you have gut issues, headaches, skin conditions. I help people with a variety of different issues. So you can visit me online on foodforlife.co.nz, and my number is 027-812-5071. So thank you for listening, and I hope everyone has a great weekend.